We've seen the concept being endlessly teased by drip-fed information and pictures, but now, finally, we've got to drive the new Toyota Supra in production form. For a legion of fans, the Supra name is an icon, but the history of Toyota sports car is actually a bit mixed, and it's no different here, as this one is about as contentious as they come. Let's start with the elephant in the room, which is Toyota's collaboration with BMW for this 5th generation A90 Supra. Does that make it a proper Supra? Does it matter? Well, we'll leave that one up to you to decide, but there is one point worth mentioning. Although this car shares its architecture with the Z4, although this is a coupe and the Z4 is a cabriolet, Toyota is keen that there aren't too many comparisons, because actually, once that architecture was initially decided, both teams went in a separate development direction. There was no collaboration during the development process for each car. Or so the story goes, but we'll get to that part of the tale in a moment. Let's take a recap of the stats. At 1,495 kilograms, it's not super light, but it's not ridiculously heavy either. The 335 brake horsepower straight 6 turbo engines in the front and drive goes to the rear, and so the recipe is pure sports car, with plenty of sophistication too. So Toyota has used parts from BMW's modular toolkit, and even next generation M parts for this Supra. And you can really tell because it handles nicely. The wheelbase is very short and the track's quite wide. That was one thing Toyota really pushed for, and it helps to give a good feeling of agility. That wheelbase is actually shorter than a GT86 is, while the centre of gravity is lower too. And in corners, it feels pointy. There's an active differential on the rear axle which helps on the way in and on the way out to tighten the car's line. The steering's weighty, and weightier still in sport mode. There's not that much of a sense of communication, but you do get a nice idea of the balance of the car just on the way out of the corner as you start to load it up and get on the power. There's a good deal of performance too. The 3-litre turbocharged straight 6 engine, a Supra hallmark, which is why Toyota wanted to partner with BMW, is strong. There's 500 Newton meters of torque from 1600 RPM, and that's sustained right the way through to 4,500 RPM. But once this punch has gone, the engine feels just a little bit strained and it doesn't rev out quite as freely as you might like in a sports car like this. The gearbox too isn't quite what we'd have hoped for. It's an 8-speed automatic, and in automatic mode it's smooth. But in manual, just when you want to grab a change at high revs, it jerks that little bit, and on the downshifts it just hiccups as well. The chassis really is the Supra's sweet point though. There are adaptive dampers with 2 modes. In normal, the ride comfort is really quite good, and in sport the body control gets tauter, but there's still enough compliance that it keeps the tyre in contact with the road, so traction's fairly good as well. Of course, with that differential you can coax it into little slides on the way out of corners, but traction's really quite good. However, it's not all good news for the Supra. There's no doubting the car has got plenty of ability, but it's the character that comes in for questioning. While Toyota claims the development has been completely separate from BMW, there are certain aspects of the Supra, like the engine and gearbox, and certain things that it does that still feel very BMW biased. Not necessarily like a Z4, just like the Supra's inner German is hiding just beneath the surface in places. We'd have liked a bit more Japanese personality to the way the Supra does what it does, but then the trade-off is that the Toyota is a better car to live with because of this as well. The Supra is a 2-seat sports car, but quite a lot of owners are going to use it day to day, and a lot of this BMW componentry inside really makes the product. The infotainment is slick, and it's fair to say that that's not one of Toyota's strong points. So with this iDrive controller and a lot of the other switchgear, it gives a nice air of quality. You get plenty of stuff as standard, and on the lower of the 2 trim levels that we tested, which starts from just under £53,000, sat-nav features as well as CarPlay for the first time in a Toyota. You also get dual-zone climate control, LED lights, 19-inch alloys, heated and vented sports seats, a rear-view camera and loads of safety tech. but the cabin is on the tight side. At least a 290 litre boot is a respectable size. But even though there are some areas we'd like to be more Toyota and less BMW, it's all about the way it drives. The Supra's chief engineer, Tetsuya Tada, said to us that he wanted this Supra to be a gift to car fans, a final sports car before regulations get ever tighter and stop the avenues open to manufacturers like Toyota. And while the Supra's not perfect, it's a fitting gift with some real talent. Click on the video on the right to watch a review of the Supra's distant relative, the BMW Z4, or on the left to see a review of one of its rivals, the Alpine A110. And don't forget to subscribe.